So before we get to updates, what is your initial thoughts on? I mean, we're in a full-scale invasion. Colin, if you could show the map. Russia has not only invaded on Ukraine's eastern border between Russia and Ukraine and the separatist regions, but every corner of Ukraine has been invaded by Russia. So what's your thought?
Writ large, he's invaded the entire country. So that sort of completely obliterates the argument that he was just going to support the separatist regions in the east.
Right.
I'm surprised by this, actually, but it's absolutely happening. Now, of course, he's claiming that they are targeting the military capacity of Ukraine. That's what these targets are. Again, it's really hard to say what the truth is. I don't trust U.S. intelligence entirely because of their history, and that's an obvious given. And also, I've seen, like, for example, on Telegram, you see these channels pop up that are pro-Russian separatists, ones that are pro-Ukrainian, and they've all been caught putting out false videos. So it's hard to say what's really going on there, although it is obvious. I mean, the facts are that Russia has absolutely invaded the Ukraine. I don't think this is, that's what it is. I don't see how you can avoid using the word invasion at this point. This is beyond just giving support in a civil war. They've invaded the country. That's
well, no, they've declared war. That's what's going on. Whether we could talk about the history of NATO, and we will. And I think Russia has some valid concerns for sure.
Oh, absolutely do. Yes.
But Russia has declared war on Ukraine. That is without a doubt. Let's start. We're going to get into our thoughts on all that, but let's just update people. Colin, if you could show President Biden announcing new sanctions.
Today, I'm authorizing additional strong sanctions and new limitations on what can be exported to Russia. This is going to impose severe cost on the Russian economy, both immediately and over time. We have purposely designed these sanctions to maximize the long-term impact on Russia and to minimize the impact on the United States and our allies. I want to be clear. The United States is not doing this alone. For months, we've been building a coalition of partners representing well more than half the global economy. 27 members of the European Union, including France, Germany, Italy, as well as the United Kingdom, Canada, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, and many others, to amplify the joint impact of our response. I just spoke with the G7 leaders this morning, and we're in full and total agreement. We will limit Russia's ability to do business in dollars, euros, pounds, and yen to be part of the global economy. We'll limit their ability to do that. We're going to stunt the ability to finance and grow the Russian military. We're going to impose and we're going to impair their ability to compete in high-tech 21st century economy. We've already seen the impact of our actions on Russia's currency and the ruble, which early today hit its weakest level ever in history. The Russia stock market plunged today. The Russian government borrowing rate spiked by over 15%. In today's actions, we've now sanctioned Russian banks that together hold around $1 trillion in assets. We've cut off Russia's largest bank, a bank that holds more than 1/3 of Russia's banking assets by itself, cut it off from the U.S. financial system. And today, we're also blocking 4 more major banks. That means every asset they have in America will be frozen.
Tina, before we get to it, I want to point out, obviously Russia's economy is, Colin, if we could just show Russia's stocks crashed 33% and ruble plunges to record low. So this is totally not surprising, but Russian stocks crashed and the ruble hit a record low against the dollar on Thursday after Russian troops launched the attack on Ukraine. So that's totally, we expected that. But, an American citizen that might be hurt by all this?
All of us, gas markets. Is that what you're referring to?
Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah.
I have been on the record that Russiagate was bullshit. There was never any evidence. There was never any evidence of Trump working with the Russian government and all this nonsense. But I said, even when I was at the Young Turks, there is evidence that Trump's real estate business, its biggest customers are Russian oligarchs.
Yeah.
Don Jr. openly said our biggest customers are Russian oligarchs. In New York, Trump, it's been a outward secret that Trump has been in bed with mafia figures, including in Russia. So I was just throwing that out there that Trump's probably not gonna. It's not good that oligarchs and all them are having their money zapped. But
well, I wanted to bring up David Sirota had a piece that came out that I think is really enlightening, because he's talking about the fact with another author, and I can't, let me see what her name is. She's somebody I'm not familiar with, but it's a great piece.
Julia Rock.
Thank you. Yeah. So she's talking about how because of corporate lobbying over the years, that so big swaths of the financial industry are protected from this, and because from the transparency laws, and because of this, the oligarchs who are using hedge funds and whatnot to launder their money are probably not going to experience much pain because their money is protected due to these transparency loopholes in the laws. So
kind of sounds like
how much money is actually frozen here, right?
Kind of sounds like the U.S. bankers that tanked the global economy didn't lose a lot of money. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, check that out at the Daily Poster.
Yeah, it's a good piece.
So also, I mean, just since we're on money, global stocks plunge as Russia attacks Ukraine. That's not a surprise either. Global stocks plunged after President Putin launched an invasion of Ukraine, growing condemnation from the West and making punishing sanctions all but certain. The U.S. stock market plunged, its rebound. But I want to get out of money for now, and let's just talk about this. So also updates. We're just trying to do rapid fire updates so we update you, and then we could get to discussion. Chernobyl, Chernobyl has been overtaken by Russia. Obviously, that's the biggest nuclear disaster, period. The Chernobyl nuclear power plant has been captured by Russian forces. An advisor to the Ukrainian presidential office, can't pronounce his name, said on Thursday, quote, "It is impossible to say the Chernobyl nuclear plant is safe after a totally pointless attack by the Russians." So there's that. We should also note, Tina, that it is not a small thing when people are out protesting in Russia, and there are considerable. I'm not talking million man march numbers. Colin, if you could show this video footage of anti-war protesters in St. Petersburg, Russia. There's been some other smaller protests throughout Russia, but in Russia, it's not nothing when people could be imprisoned for doing this.
Had hundreds of arrests, in fact, of these protesters.
Right. So there's a lot. There is, I don't want to speak for all of Russia what the sentiment is, but there's a decent chunk in Russia that is totally against this. So we can't update you with everything. There's probably crazy shit happening as we're live. I don't have a CNN control room to update you, but that's basically what's happening. As of now, Kiev, the Ukrainian capital, I don't believe there's been a full-scale, invasion of Kiev, but the night is young here on the East Coast.
Yeah, that could still happen. You have ultra-nationalists on both sides, on the Russian separatist side, that have been there fighting as well, and that has gotten little attention. So I find it rather disingenuous when Putin says in his speech, we need to denazify Ukraine, because pot me kettle. I mean, this has to be part of the conversation if we're going to really be honest about what's going on.
Right. I want to get to that, but I want to start with a history lesson. And again, I like to be honest with my audience. I know what I know, and I don't know what I don't know. But what I will say is, at the end of the day, when the Soviet Union fell, which, by the way, the United States played a big role in, and by the way, the United States played a big role in turning Russia into a capitalist country and instilling neoliberalism in Russia and all that stuff. So the U.S. is no innocent wallflower here. But when the Soviet Union fell, there were promises made to what became Russia that NATO would not move further east of reunified Germany. So that's just a fact. I know a lot of neocons and CNN doesn't like to talk about, but it is a fact that there were promises made to Russia that NATO would not further move east. NATO has more than further moved east. Aside from Ukraine, it's all over Russia, Poland, Romania, all these other countries. I don't have the long list. And Putin and Russia, obviously, rightly so, see that as a threat, because with NATO membership, the weapons start flooding in, the cash starts flooding into these countries.
That's right.
So they, the Western media and CNN and MSNBC like to slobber over NATO, and NATO is like a wonderful road trip to Russia. Yeah, no thanks. NATO is a wonderful altruistic organization, and this and that. I'm here to tell you, not so much. So with that said, I don't think Vladimir. Oh, and there's also the 2014 coup, which the United States played a role in. If you want to comment on that,
Victoria Nuland. In fact, we even have leaked audio that came out where she's discussing who they want to be in leadership in Ukraine. So yeah, what happened in 2014 was absolutely a coup. I know some people want to gloss that over as well, or they want to make the argument that it wasn't actually a coup, that the previous government was illegitimate. Like, everybody has a take on this, right? Because everybody's trying to sell their piece of propaganda, because more or less I feel like that's what's happening here. But that was a coup, right? So you had, it was absolutely furthered by fascism in the country. And a lot of ultra-nationalists, Azov Battalion, which we had mentioned, they're not the only neo-Nazi militia that was there. So Ukraine has always had a Nazi problem. A lot of time you'll see them talk about Stepan Bandera, you'll see him call him the father of Ukraine. He was a Nazi sympathizer during World War II. That's just a fact, not up for debate. So anybody that wants to sort of say that this guy is our father, that's not good. A lot of that's driven, of course, by anti-communist sentiment, but it doesn't make it okay. And it is definitely part of the conversation. And I don't think it entirely gets discounted just because Zelensky's Jewish, right? I think these things are not mutually exclusive. They can coexist.
Right. So bottom line, two things could be true.
Yeah.
Putin, Russia, they have valid concerns about NATO. But Colin, if you could put the map back up.
Yeah.
If the concerns are about NATO, I mean, they're invading all of Ukraine. So why are they invading Western Ukraine if their concern is about NATO on its eastern border, right? I mean, that really, I think Putin kind of gave away the game, that this isn't really fully about NATO. And even besides that, I do believe countries have a right to defend themselves, but Russia is not currently under an attack. So Putin has preemptively invaded, whether they have some legitimate grievances or not. I think they do. Has preemptively invaded Ukraine. And by the way, before this full-scale invasion, just declared these separatist regions as not part of Ukraine. Thanks for watching, and make sure to tune in to Status Coup's daily live stream Monday through Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern Time and Fridays at 4 o'clock Eastern Time.